Hey, this is Andrew from Spackle Bucket Moto, and I just got back from a early January here bicycle ride in the Midwest, which is unheard of, which I gotta thank my brother and his funny fork here on this Turner. This goofy setup, which is suspension related, I'll get on that in a second here about this rant, but just put some miles on this Turner. Great bike, and granted I'm only riding some crummy fire roads and just around town, that sort of thing, but it's a thing of beauty to ride a fork like this, which leads me to something that came up recently was with regards to suspension setup on bikes. I've pretty much noted that I generally tend to run, KTM's stock sport settings on my 350s. They've generally worked really well for me. And one thing I've really noted to people was to not really spend or waste money unnecessarily on aftermarket suspension goodies or things like that. I see a lot of people that go ahead and as soon as they get a new bike, the first thing they're doing is they're pulling the suspension off and sending it off to some tuner to do something. First of all the components are going to have some sort of wear into them. Not only that, but you should maybe get an idea for what the bike feels like before you go tweaking things. Now, there's some caveats to this. If you're at like some pro level or you're, even have experience with a similar bike and know like, hey, generally this stuff does this, that might be a reason why you'd go, all right, well, I know this tuner is going to do this, I'm going to do that. But for most people, don't do that. If the bike is sprung correctly for you, the stock suspension on these bikes is so much better than anyone wants to give them credit for. You'll read online all the time how these suck for this can't handle that you can't do this, one click doesn't do this, doesn't do that. I'm gonna call BS on that one because I think people just aren't allowing themselves to get in tune with their bike and the suspension as a whole. And yeah, it's a lot easier to go, hey, I'm gonna pay this guy $1,000 to redo my fork and shock and the bike's gonna be magical afterwards. It's just not always going to be the case. If you don't know exactly what's going on with the suspension, if you don't know what the bike's doing on your given set of terrain, you're never going to be able to benefit really from spending that extra money. So that's just something I wanted to expound upon here because it's one of those things you see too many people that go on and on and on about suspension this and suspension that, and really the best thing that you're going to do for yourself with your suspension is to go and experiment with it. Don't spend a bunch of money on it. If your bike is new, let the suspension break in for a while. Even give it a couple 100 miles of like decent hard off-road use. If your suspension's worn out, get it up to snuff. Get it new bushings, new seals, new oil. If the valves need to be cleaned out, get that done. That's a different aspect. If your linkages are worn out, that's going to affect your overall feel. So you want to make sure that stuff's all good. But if you're dealing with a well-sorted bike, just experiment with the stock clickers first. If you have no idea where to start from, you can start from your manufacturer's suggested settings, or one of the things to get a feel for what either compression or rebound will do, go fully open on them or fully closed, and you'll feel what those extremes really feel like, and then you can dial it one way or the other to really bring it in. So this is Andrew from Spackle Bucket Moto. Save your money, save your pennies. Dial your stock clickers first before spending money on some aftermarket tuner to work his magic. Peace.